I believe that at the core of my being. Whether it's the mugshot day, which we've talked about, whether it's the July 13th assassination attempt on President Trump, which we talked about, whether it was Trump going from a near-death shot in the face on a stage to being a manager at McDonald's for a couple of days, which, guess what? You guessed it. We talked about that too. To a second assassination attempt, to almost everybody in the American media for the second time in a row, actually probably third time in a row, totally discount President Trump. And I know, listen, I mean this completely. It seems like what happened in 2024 was different, but also very similar to what happened in 2016. It seemed like no one in the media saw this coming. So I didn't have a lot of time to prep for this show, coming from hosting radio directly to here. This is I'm a one-man band, so to speak, on this show, on the podcast. But in researching for this show, I found probably 5 or 6 pieces of sound that basically said Trump's campaign was faltering. This is a man that will go down in flames and will live out his life in infamy, perhaps even behind bars. And they're saying this gleefully so. I mean, I'm serious, folks. This was a week before the election day. This is what these idiots with national platforms are saying on national television. And it's also why we should never trust any of these morons ever again. I mean, most people discounted this guy. I even think that most conservatives discounted this guy. Not us. Not America Firsters. Not America First believers. I think we saw things with clear eyes. I think that for most of us, the scales have been removed from our eyes for some time now. In fact, I give you, the Battle Crew and McGroin Nation and Nunchucks, when they're over here raiding the stream from Dan Nunn's show and whoever else who watches or listens to this show, I give you all the credit in the world because, I feel like nothing that I say is a surprise to you. I feel like much of what we talk about, we're on the same page with. And that's because you're willing to think for yourself, which, by the way, is an uncommon thing today in America. I look at school, for example, what my kids, and I've got 5 of them, right? So we've got lots of experience with dealing with school. My issue with schools today, and I mean, this is a general statement. I don't, so bear with me here. My issue with many schools today is they don't teach children to be leaders. They teach children to be followers. And of course, if you're a leader, you ain't doing your job if you're not thinking for yourself. And I feel like when I was a kid in elementary school, middle school, high school, and then again in college, I mean, in college, it did get progressively more liberal, but even when I was in college, the vast majority of professors that I had, while liberal, did the best that they could to keep politics out of the classroom. They present the facts, say decide for yourself. More importantly, think for yourself. Thinking critically was really important. Okay, this is what the history book says, Sean. But what do you think about this fact pattern that was set out before you? How do you think this person acted at this moment in our nation's history or in our world's history? But today, and I know this because I hear the kids talk about this stuff, they're so focused on testing, right? And studying what would be on the test and almost studying to be able to take the test. And of course, that's a strategy for doing well on a test, but it does little to prepare you to the real world where, as you navigate through this crazy journey that we called life, you got to be able to react. Life is a test in many ways, but it's not like you can study for that test. In fact, life is one curveball after the next. And in fact, I talked about this on the Clay and Buck show today, And for those of you who are just joining us, I filled in today for Clay Travis and Buck Sexton on the biggest radio show in the country, by the way. I think they're on 500 plus stations, which is insane. They took the torch, which was passed to them by Rush Limbaugh. So many of these stations and the 12 to 3 time slot was Rush's old slot. And I am not putting myself in the same category as Rush Limbaugh. Definitely not. Never will do that. Not in the same category as Clay Travis or Buck Sexton. All of those guys are extraordinary at the job. But let me tell you, this is like, as I usually say on the show, earmuffs if you've got kids around. But no bullshit assessment here. My life has been one crazy surprise of a stepping stone after the next. Never planned to join the military. Always had an interest because my dad went to the Naval Academy for a time and was always interested in military culture and was always interested in the idea of testing myself, but it never became a reality until 9/11, and I joined, never planned it, but there it was. And then come out of the military, had no idea what I wanted to do with my life, left the military broke, like penniless. I had a few bucks, I'm just exaggerating, but left the military broke and broke in, physically broken, not mentally broken. I'm a volunteer. I raised my right hand to serve this country, and I would do it again if I could in a second, especially if this country needed me. But left the military broken. No idea what I wanted to do with my life. Went back to grad school. Definitely wasn't my thing. In fact, it was a PhD program. I got accepted into a PhD program in clinical psychology at Duquesne University in Pennsylvania, intending to study neurotrauma and the effects of trauma on the brain and post-traumatic stress disorder so that I could help soldiers and their families who were struggling with the invisible wounds of war. At least that was my motivation. Well, all that changed too when my first book came out, and I'm not a writer. Seriously, I was a mediocre student all my life. When I knew the grades that I needed to get in the Army branch that I wanted and to do the things in the Army that I wanted to do, well, boy, I locked down my grades pretty quickly. But before that, mediocre every step of the way. If you don't believe me, just find my parents and ask them. But writing a book was never part of the plan. And all of a sudden, one day I woke up and I just was, overwhelmed with the sense of duty of telling the story of my troops to make sure that their legacy never died, because I would hear over and over from my troops, the American people don't even know what we did in Afghanistan. And this was at a time where the nation was focused on Iraq. You've heard me say some of this stuff before. Of course you have. So I became obsessed with this. I feel like God set me on this path too, just like he did after 9/11. And all the while coming home from the military and adjusting to life, the injury that I had in Afghanistan was very similar. It was very similar. It's been a long day. The injury that I had in Afghanistan was very serious. I had a head injury, cerebral spinal fluid leak, so I had fractured my skull in some way over there. And when I came back, I went through a year at the traumatic brain injury clinic at Fort Drum, New York. I did physical therapy. I did occupational therapy. I did speech therapy. You might be thinking, well, why would you need that? Or I'm surprised that you needed that. Well, I did. Suffered from a serious head injury. In the silver lining, if there was one to be had, after being blown up 3 successive times, once by an airburst mortar and twice by a rocket-propelled grenade, if there was a silver lining to that experience, it was the fact that it happened when I was young. It happened when I was in my early to mid 20s. Now I'm 43. I still have some residual effects from that traumatic brain injury. I still like looking at some of the studio lights is tough for me. Some days are harder than others. But for the most part, I feel like my brain, because of the concept of neuroplasticity and the brain's ability to rewire itself, especially when young after trauma, I feel like I've made a full recovery. So think about this for me, going from a time where I'm in therapy for speech after a head injury in Afghanistan to hosting the biggest radio show in the country. Folks, I can assure you that this was never part of my life's path. And it was the people and I talked to Commander Melanie about this before I went live tonight. There have been people along the way. I mean, obviously, most of my family is included in this, and I say most deliberately. When times were darkest, they just didn't abandon me. I mean, my family was right there with me every step of the way, supported me every step of the way. But a lot of amazing people that didn't abandon me during some of these really tough times either. And look, I'm not saying, I'm just saying, folks, life throws curveballs at us, and you can do your best to prepare for life, but just like the enemy has a say, regardless of how well you train in combat, well, life has a say in how life is going to be for you. And I feel like sitting in for Clay Travis and Buck Sexton, not on my bingo card for life. Let's just say that. And, being in that chair today was kind of an amazing thing. And I just feel like I'm extraordinarily blessed to be able to have this and all those people that helped me along the way. And let me tell you, Wendy Bell and Brock would not be sitting here doing this show every day for an hour with all of you. Certainly would never be filling in for Clay and Buck Sexton, Clay Travis and Buck Sexton, and then Jesse Kelly. And then Wendy Bell gave me, that was the very first opportunity to fill in anybody. But those two were there with me from day one on this journey and never once abandoned me. Buck Sexton, I've known him for a long time before he was the host of the Clay and Buck Sexton show. He never once abandoned me either. In fact, the guy's the host of the biggest radio show in the country, and he's texting me from Spain or something on a vacation, telling me, good luck. Hey, I'm proud that you're my friend. And I feel like those people in our lives who are there for us when times are really rough. I don't know, maybe there's part of me that thinks that maybe I've not been thankful enough to my family and my friends who have really stuck with me. Maybe I haven't been grateful enough to those people, because as people, as human beings, I think we are wired to focus on negativity. And sometimes we get laser focused on the negative without looking at, hey, be grateful for your standing in life. Look around you. All these great people are there for you. And that's kind of where I feel. That's kind of how I feel right now. I'm kind of focused on all those great people as we bring in the new year that were there for me. And I'm grateful for those people who were there with me even during bad times, because that's the real measure of a friend. Is right. Everybody wants to be your friend when you're riding high, right? I mean, man, when I was the Trump endorsed Senate candidate in Pennsylvania, I mean, this phone didn't stop ringing and texting of people who just would love to be my friend at that time. And then the moment that my Senate campaign ended, not all, but most of those people stopped texting, and that's fine. It's fine. No hard feelings. I get it. It was a ridiculous time. People didn't really know what was true, what wasn't. I get it. I have no hard feelings. But silver lining for me is I was able to focus in on the people who really mattered, who never abandoned me. And because of that, it's given me a new perspective on life that I think I desperately needed. So very grateful to have the opportunity to fill in for Clay and Buck today. I know that was a bit of a long intro. Smash that like button, that little green thumb beneath the video. Really helps us make the leaderboard. The Clay and Buck show, by the way, before I got to do a couple of ad reads here, and then I'll get into the show, I promise. But the Clay and Buck show, I'm telling you, that is crazy. They had a huge production team. Normally with Jesse Kelly's amazing producer is named Chris. Love that guy. Obviously, Wendy Bell, Brockstar is her amazing producer. Love that guy too. He's also the champion of our fantasy football team, and he can go to hell on that. But other than that, I love that guy. Normally shows have like one producer that a host really, really trusts. Holy smokes. Every single producer, well, at least the producers that I engaged with and talked with, the executive producer of Clay and Buck show worked with Rush Limbaugh for 22 years. Can you believe that? The show's senior producer worked with Rush Limbaugh for 17 years. Can you believe that? Is that not insane to me? I mean, my dad used to drive me around everywhere and talk about Rush Limbaugh. I'd hear him on the radio all the time as a kid. I said this on the show this morning. Who the hell is this Rush guy, and who the hell names their kid Rush? Well, now of course I know who he is, and who would have thought that I'd even have an opportunity like this, even if it only happens one time. I'm grateful to God for this experience. Can you believe that? So this is all the stuff that's on my mind going into the new year, trying to evaluate the person that I want to be. Obviously, I'm always going to be the same person, but every day my personal philosophy is every day I try to be a little bit better than who I was the day before. Every day I don't compete really. I'm competitive. Yes, I'm very, very competitive, but I don't compare myself to other people who are in my shoes. Well, that's not necessarily true. Sometimes I do, but I stop myself quickly, because that's a pathway to unhappiness. And the only person that I'm going to compare myself to is who I was yesterday. And again, as we go into the new year, this is the stuff that I'm thinking about, because I want 2025 to be better than 2024. I just do. And I think part of being better is having the ability to look internally, have an internal barometer, be honest about who you are, what you need to improve, what you can do better. Being capable of doing a self-audit is I think really important. And so I mean, Commander Melanie would probably tell you that I do that too much. In fact, I think I know she would tell you that I do that too much, but it's really the only way I know. And that's really what I'm thinking about now as we prepare for the ball drop. So got a huge show for you today, huge podcast. I'm going to tell you a quick personal story about one of my soldiers here in a second. And I know I'm kind of off on a tangent today, but it's what's on my mind. And this is why we do the podcast, to talk about, spend this time together almost as a big battle crew family. So let me tell you about Sweetamine. Great sponsor that we've had this entire year. If you're suffering from chronic pain, Sweetamine is for you. It works because it's composed mainly of the amino acid glycine, and that's the nutrient our immune system uses to regulate inflammation. Most of the diseases that make people sick and die these days, all rooted in chronic inflammation, mainly due to a glycine deficiency. All those aches and pains that we feel as we get older are mainly due to chronic inflammation. Well, once daily serving of Sweetamine provides 8 grams of glycine. That's enough to stop all excess inflammation right where it starts. With once daily Sweetamine, most people feel the reduction in pain after just a couple of days. Sweetamine is great for recovery after workouts too. A 12-day challenge trial pack of Sweetamine is only $19.95 with free shipping. So sold completely risk-free. So if you think it sucks for whatever reason, or it's not working, you can send it back. You get your money back. Use Sweetamine just like sugar. It comes in these little packets. Sprinkle it on a smoothie. Sprinkle it in a protein shake. Put it on your damn cereal. Take it any way you want. All natural Sweetamine contains no sugar, no carbs, has only 24 calories, perfectly safe for diabetics. You can buy Sweetamine online at sweetamine.com or call 855-GET-SWEET. That's 855-438-7933. That's sweetamine.com. That's SWEETAMINE.com or call 855-GET-SWEET. That's 855-438-7933. Use the promo code Sean, SEAN, and you'll get a $5 discount on your very first purchase. So check them out. Also, very thankful for my Patriot Supply. We're in crunch time now. A new administration will be sworn in soon, but as great as that is, that also means our enemies have days left to stir up trouble. That could mean a cyber attack. That could mean an invasion, or God forbid, some sort of nuclear strike or EMP attack. So until the longtime bureaucrats are out of Washington, I'm not taking my chances. And that's why I have an emergency food supply from My Patriot Supply sitting on a shelf right over there. So right now, they're offering $100 off their 3-month emergency food kit. It's got 2,000 calories per day for 3 whole months, plenty to get you through even a prolonged emergency. All their food kits last up for 25 years in storage. Plus, they come in rugged, weatherproof buckets. So go to preparewithvnn.com right now to order your 3-month emergency food kit. I've got an emergency food supply in my home because my safety and security and my family's safety and security is worth it. So go to preparewithvnn.com. Order your 3-month emergency food kit right now. Okay, folks, we all have things. Make sure you smash that like button, that little green thumb beneath the video. Listen, I'm sure that you actually, I'm going to come over to the live chat and I'd like to get your feedback here. Because again, all of these things are on my mind at the end of the year. And, I'm kind of freewheeling here and I'm kind of being an open book here to give you a window into, into my mindset on a lot of things. But let me ask you all a question. And this is gonna, if it's too personal, fine. Don't answer. But let me ask you all a question. Do you have regrets? Do many of you all have regrets do you have regrets in your life, in your past? Things that you wish that, damn, I wish that I had a mulligan on that. Like, I wish I had a do-over on that. Let me know. I mean, of course. I have regrets, many, of course. Hey, thank you all for sharing this stuff with me, folks. Regina, yes. Glow, yes. Okay. George, yep. Okay. So people saying who doesn't. Well, that makes me feel good. And hey, listen, I see you, Wiser. I say thank you for a wonderful show, bringing us truth and common sense. God bless you and the battle crew family in the new year. Trump won 2025. You just reminded me something, Wiser. I'll get back to the regrets thing in a second. But thank you for the Rumble Rant tip. 100% we get goes right back into the studio. But yes, Trump won 2025. I have this video of Commander Melanie and I. Oh, look at all these people responding to the regrets thing. Everyone's saying yes. Who doesn't? I have this video of Commander Melanie on this like this kind of paratrooper type ride in Delaware at Funland in Delaware, right on the beach. We took the kids there, and we're like whipping around in this circle. And this was back just after 2020 when it was like still kind of like, I don't know. I mean, we never felt like this, but there were many conservatives that, oh, he can't say this. So whipping around in this paratrooper ride, and Melanie is screaming Trump won as we fly around in a circle. This is right after 2020. Just whipping around all these libs in Delaware, just whipping around. Melanie screaming Trump won from the top. I mean, is this woman not she's definitely wife material, is she not? Just imagine her like my wife just whipping around. Trump won. Melanie says, boy, she didn't hold anything back when she lets loose. Okay, but let me get back to the thank you, Wiser, for that. No, I see you, G Fontes. Thank you, my friend, for the Rumble Rants tips. He said, I don't regret the things that I've done that failed, but regret the things that I've not done that may have succeeded. Wise words, G Fontes, my friend. I want to tell you about it's kind of a regret that I have. I mean, yeah, it's a regret. I had a soldier. His name was Jeff Hall, and I love that guy. It was just like a hell of a soldier, just like a soldier. And he also loved top shelf stuff. So we had this like Harley Davidson that he rode everywhere, had arm tattoos and everything, drank top shelf whiskey. He just liked very nice things. He had this like hardcore, awesome Alienware laptop. And I didn't know what Alienware was back then, but I guess it's like a video gaming laptop. And, when you're out in the middle of nowhere, hey, having a video game to play is kind of a cool thing. We were literally out in the middle of nowhere when we were stationed in Afghanistan. We were watching Band of Brothers because, as you know, this is Band of Brothers time for the family here at Fort Parnell. Watch it the day after Christmas. We try to finish it by New Year's Day. They were watching on Band of Brothers with what's called a CDS drop, basically parachute dropping food to soldiers who are trapped behind enemy lines. But that was my unit for 485 days. We were surrounded by the enemy on all sides, out in the middle of nowhere, the mountainous border region between Afghanistan and Pakistan. They would fly this big C-130 overhead, and they'd drop our food on these little pallets, right? And you'd see the parachutes pop out there. And sometimes the wind caught them the wrong way, and the enemy would get our food and our resupply. And that would mean we would really have to be careful what we ate for a week, or we'd be eating MREs for a week. But Jeff Hall, because he was a Ranger, he was also a Pathfinder. He would go out and he'd coordinate the CDS drop. So he'd be out in the LZ communicating with the C-130, marking the landing zone, trying to give a target point for the parachute, all this stuff. And he'd be responsible for all that. It was very, very high speed, highly trained guy. And we were on this mission in late 2006. We had taken, 485 days of combat. My base had taken over 4,000 rockets, and those are indirect fire attacks. So if you remember Band of Brothers, where there's the Battle of the Bulge season, they're getting pounded with artillery, that's kind of what they went through. Was far, far worse, living in those foxholes, no cold weather gear, freezing their asses off, getting pounded with German artillery every day. That was hell. We got pounded with artillery every day too, but at least I had a bed and a pillow to sleep in. Now, that doesn't mean a rocket could land on your head while you're sleeping, but at least you're going to be comfortable in the meantime, or comfortable-ish as it goes when you're out in the middle of nowhere in Afghanistan. So we got tasked with this mission to find all these rocket teams, hunt them down, and kill them. And we got that mission in late November. Well, within 5 minutes of being on that mission, my platoon was, of course, we ran point for everything. Pittsburgh Plumber is asking, what is Band of Brothers, a movie? Band of Brothers, Pittsburgh, is the best miniseries of all times. If you have Netflix, it's for free on net. It's right there on Netflix. It's the best World War II miniseries of all time. It's largely regarded as that as well, by not just me, but by everybody. But we watch it because it gives the kids a sense of what it's like to be in the infantry. So anyways, we're on this mission, and within 2 seconds of hunting down these guys, we see these like Al-Qaeda type guys clad in all black, had BDU, like camouflage, woodland camo chest racks where they carried all their ammunition and stuff, and AK-47s. They run out from the Wadi system to our left, and a Wadi system is like a canyon, right, or a culvert. They run out. There's 5 of them there, waving their AK-47s and screaming at us and doing us all this other stuff. We're on patrol with the Afghan National Army, and Marines are embedded with the Afghan National Army to train them. And so they're up on the high ground. My platoon's down in the low ground. Well, the Afghan National Army sees these guys waving these AK-47s and screaming, and they turn around and they take off running. Well, guess what the Afghan National Army did? The Afghan National Army went running after them. And the Marines who were embedded among them, you could hear them yelling, no, stop, sensing what we all sensed, and that was we were about to be very likely baited into an ambush, that they had something in that culvert that was not going to be good for us. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened. The Marine first lieutenant, who was with the Afghan National Army at that point, got shot in the pelvis right away. And every member of the Afghan National Army on that ridgeline who charged after those Al-Qaeda insurgents, those rocket teams, got pinned down and cut off and surrounded by the enemy. And the problem is that, obviously being trapped and pinned down by the enemy is a really bad, shitty thing. That's bad in and of itself. But what was really bad is that we had a U.S. Marine up there who was shot in the pelvis. And what we had gotten word of is that his femoral artery might have been nicked. And that's not a good thing, obviously. And so I asked my battalion commander to send my platoon in to get him out. And so we went in. We drove headlong into that kill zone, got attacked, had 2 guys shot in the head on that patrol. Both of those guys stayed in the fight, by the way. I think I told some of you all this story before, but had to evac our wounded, went back into the kill zone, couldn't get to this Marine in trucks. So it pulled back out of the kill zone, consolidated, reorganized, focused on evacuating all of our wounded. Jeff Hall, my 3rd squad leader, volunteers to go after this Marine and take his squad with him, 9 people, fight through 2 enemy lines to get to this guy. And Jeff Hall was what they would call like a medically trained combat lifesaver. So he takes his squad up this hilltop, and he gets to the top of the hill, and he does fight through 2 hostile enemy lines, gets to this Marine. He administers first aid, somehow stops the bleeding after being shot in the hip. He guides in this Black Hawk helicopter with a jungle penetrator, but not before 2 Apache helicopters. Okay, these are our attack helicopters. We're on station attacking the enemy and trying to keep the enemy off of us. Not before both hear me now. Both of those Apaches took incoming fire, took bullets to their hull, and had to withdraw from the station. So all of this happened. Jeff's able to get this Black Hawk helicopter in with a jungle penetrator, which is basically a litter where you would put a casualty. Imagine, somebody sitting in the back of an ambulance or something. That's like a litter dangling at the end of a big long rope that they lower down from this helicopter. That's called a jungle penetrator. And then you've got these straps that go over the casualty's chest. Well, Jeff Hall is surrounded by the enemy, somehow gets this Black Hawk helicopter in. And remember, he's a Pathfinder and he's trained to do this stuff. And gets this jungle penetrator in, gets this Marine loaded up. And we watch this bird fly away with this big dangly rope and this litter, this Marine hanging. I mean, it's absolutely unbelievable. And Jeff Hall comes down smoking a cigarette. And he goes, "Sir, I see that look in your eye. Don't even put me in for an award." He's like, "Because it ain't going to work. I'm just doing my damn job." So that's the kind of guy that Jeff Hall is. And so we get home after 16 months of Afghanistan, and he and I were close. We go through something like that. I'm close. I was close with a lot of my guys. Even to this day, I was just talking to my second squad leader yesterday. Who actually lost to Brock, by the way, in the fantasy football finals. But Jeff Hall and I, after I got back, got into some stupid fight about something, I don't even remember what the hell it was about. Just some stupid military bullshit. I couldn't even tell you to this day what it was about. And we never really talked ever again until he got orders to go back to Afghanistan, and I couldn't. I was non-deployable because of my head injury. I was going through rehab and in the process of being put out of the Army. But I remember standing on the flight line because I wanted to be there for my troops as they went back into the fight that they just barely survived. 16 months, 9 months off, and then back for over 15 months. Absolutely ridiculous what the Army put us through, which, by the way, this is part of the reason why I'm glad that Hegseth is going to be our new Secretary of Defense. That kind of crazy shit has to stop. But I remember shaking his hand and saying, "Good luck. You're going to be great. Take care of your men." And he said, "Thanks, sir." Shook his hand, and he went and boarded that C-130, that civilian helicopter, that civilian aircraft to take him to Kuwait, where he gets on the C-130, goes back to Afghanistan. He deployed to Wardak province. And on June 1st, 2009, he was killed. His truck ran over a devastating improvised explosive device and killed everybody in that truck but the gunner. And I look back on that. I was talking to Melanie about this today, and for whatever reason, sometimes you go through life and you forget some of this stuff, right? But something that I saw on Band of Brothers yesterday as we watched this jarred that memory in me. And I told Melanie this morning, I'm like, man, I really regret this. This was a really stupid fight. And now I'll never have the opportunity to really make it right or talk to him ever again. Life is short. The only thing that we're guaranteed is right this second. We're not guaranteed tomorrow. And so, again, sorry to go off on a tangent with this stuff, but this is all the stuff I'm thinking about going into the new year. And hopefully I learn from this and it makes me a better person. And that's why when I see these stories like $6 billion to Ukraine, this is, of course, the Biden administration announcing a $2.5 billion weapons aid package to Ukraine in conjunction with Janet Yellen announcing, a $3.5 billion aid package to Ukraine from the U.S. Treasury, over $6 billion to Ukraine in Biden's last, and the 21 days out before Trump is sworn in. It just pisses me off so much because it feels like we're making the same mistakes that we have made for the last 20 years, mistakes that put Jeff Hall in a place to get killed, that forced him to go back to Afghanistan after 16 months. By the way, 485 days. Try to wrap your mind around how long that is. So Easy Company and Band of Brothers, they jump into Normandy and they fight to Hitler's eagle's nest in less time than 485 days. But that's how long we were in Afghanistan, 16 months in a row. So Jeff Hall comes home, he has a new baby girl named Audrey, and gets married to an amazing woman called Allison, and is with his baby for 9 months. And the Secretary of Defense at the time, which I think was Rumsfeld, turn around, send him right back. Hell, it might not have been Rumsfeld. I don't know. It might have been Gates or somebody like that. But no one in the Department of Defense thought that maybe we shouldn't send a unit that had been home for only 9 months, less than a year, send them back over there? Think that guys after 16 months of heavy combat might be fatigued? You think that that might be an anti-warfighter position? Yet here we are, $6 billion sending right to Ukraine in a war that will be nothing but a bloody stalemate. And oh, by the way, here we are sending all this money to Ukraine when you have Western North Carolina still in shambles. People are sharing heartbreaking video out of Western North Carolina. This is a national scandal. I mean, I guess FEMA's on the ground there now, but they're not doing a whole lot. I mean, you look at some of the testimony videos from the people of North Carolina who are still suffering to this day from Hurricane Helene. I mean, many people have not even seen FEMA or think that FEMA is not helping them at all. And so here we are sending $6 billion to Ukraine and not even helping our own people. Or how about the people of Maui and Hawaii? We covered that extensively here on this podcast when it happened. Extensively, relying heavily on survivor testimony from local news coverage and how people felt the government was doing. They didn't feel good about it. $700, $700, maybe a little bit more in Western North Carolina, that is supposed to replace everything that these people lost. And yet here we are. Like, tell me what the moral justification is, Republicans who are okay with this bullshit. Because I know there are plenty of you in Washington. Where's the moral justification for this when you have Americans here that are suffering, legitimately suffering from natural disasters? Or how about in the year of 2024, homelessness in this country increased at a rate not seen before in a very long time. It's at an all-time high right now under Joe Biden. Show me the moral justification for sending $6 billion to a country that's not even technically our ally. This is why I'm so passionate about this speaker stuff. And I know that many of you all, I'm as conservative America first as you get. I think you all know that about me. But I don't want to squander 2 years of a Trump presidency. I don't. We did this in 2016. Republicans stabbed him in the back. Paul Ryan and the rest of the Republicans cut from the same cloth. I'm tired of this. We cannot have a repeat of the past where Republicans gain power and we fail to wield it. So is Mike Johnson perfect? Absolutely not. But there's no one else. There's no one else. There's not a consensus candidate that's going to emerge. Jim Jordan. I love Jim Jordan. If I were in the House of Representatives, I'd be voting for Jim Jordan all day long. I love that guy. But I think Jim would tell you I'm more effective on judiciary. And he's probably right. Investigating the Biden crime family syndicate, questioning and holding to account all these criminals within our deep state. I actually like Jim Jordan in that role too, and I think he'd tell you the same thing. Maybe, I don't know. I'm just speculating. Trump endorsed Mike Johnson. Mike Johnson came out yesterday and said he has the votes. I mean, we'll see. I broke down the math for you all yesterday. Go to the 31-minute mark of the show yesterday where I break down all the math, but Speaker Johnson can only afford to lose 4 votes. Well, he's got Massey. He's not going to be voting for him. I think Victoria Spartz, a Republican congresswoman, is probably not going to vote for him, or is at least looking to maybe vote for somebody else. Well, that's 2. Well, you need a solid majority of people who name you by name in order to win, and that number's 218. So you can only afford to lose a few with 434 members in the House. And if you don't, and here's the reason, right? Okay, listen to me on this. I know many of you all probably, I don't know if you all agree or not, but like, to me, I look at it like this. if we are to say that President Trump, a president, is entitled to his cabinet, and by the way, I don't like the whole media gaslighting of, oh, are we going to vote for Pete or not? Or, oh my gosh, is Kash Patel going to have the votes or not? I think this is media gaslighting. Because look at Biden, Pete Buttigieg, and all of these moronic Biden cabinet appointees who have no experience whatsoever. All of them got some Republican votes. So don't tell me that Pete Hegseth isn't qualified. Don't tell me that Kash Patel's not qualified. Don't tell me that Tulsi Gabbard and RFK aren't qualified. A president is entitled to his cabinet. Let me ask you, folks. I really want to ask you all this question, because maybe I'm wrong in this assumption, but I personally believe that a president is entitled to his cabinet. Do you believe that? I respect the Constitution. I respect the Senate's role of advice and consent. I respect that. Nowhere in that phrase is obstruct, advice, consent. I respect that. But I just do believe the Democrat or Republican, if the election's on the up and up and a president wins an election, well, he's entitled to the advisors that he wants, right? So I of course. So lots of yeses here. So let me also ask you this then. So, and tell me if I'm wrong. And Shells Bells, 100%, absolutely. A leader needs his team. I agree. In Boston says, I couldn't agree more, Sean. It's BS what our own Senate asses are doing. Fire for effect, dropping some F-bombs. Thank you for your candor, my friend. Okay, so if we agree that a president is entitled to his cabinet, a leader needs his team. If Trump endorses Mike Johnson for speaker, would that same logic not apply? Trump endorsed Speaker Johnson. Trump has a mandate. It was a Trump mandate. He overperformed statewide Republicans everywhere, even in the suburbs, as all Trump naysayers would tell you. He's going to lose the suburbs. Trump overperformed statewide Republicans in the suburbs. So President endorses Speaker Johnson. Is he entitled to have a speaker of his choice? If you believe the president's entitled to his cabinet, then I also believe, I'm just trying to be intellectually consistent here, that he's also entitled to have a speaker of his choice. And if he chooses Mike Johnson, hey, Trump won the election. We should get on board with that too, especially since there is not a viable conservative that has come forward to do it. I cannot let good be the enemy of great. Did I say that right? Nevertheless, you get my point. And what really concerns me is that having Trump in the White House with no bullshit shenanigans taking place is ultimately the most important thing. Because while Republicans seem poised to infight, the Democrats are working overtime to undermine the president at every turn. Use the power of Congress to thwart the will of the American people. Use the intel community to make President Trump's next term hell. They are doing this right now. And if we squabble and fight amongst ourselves over a stupid speaker fight, and I'm not saying this stuff is important. I'm just saying there are things that are more important. Certifying the election on January 6th and making sure Trump is in the White House on January 20th is everything to me. What I am saying is that having Trump in the White House is more important than who's Speaker of the House right this second. That's what I'm saying. And the fact that Trump has endorsed Speaker Johnson for the job, hey, has he been perfect? Absolutely not. But Trump endorsed him. We should trust Trump. I mean that. So I'm going to show you exactly what I mean. But let me tell you about a couple of our sponsors. Sorry. 3 hours of radio, turn around doing an hour podcast. My voice isn't cut out for this. I haven't really built up a tolerance to it yet, but smash that like button, that little green thumb beneath the video. Smash that like button. I know it's a holiday, but we always try to get close to 400 likes. It's always tough around the holiday season. But let me tell you real quickly about Book a Limo. If you're on the lookout for a top-notch transportation service or limo service, whether it's for corporate travel or any other adventure, well, you are in luck, because today got the inside scoop on a company that's all about luxury, reliability, and exceptional customer service. So I am talking about Book a Limo. From sleek sedans to spacious SUVs, even sprinter vans and mini coaches for group travel, Book a Limo's fleet has a ride for every style and occasion. If you need something larger, they've got you covered with motor coaches. Of course, they've got limousines as well. It's right there in the name. So what sets Book a Limo apart? They're available in 1,000 cities worldwide. They offer all of what I just told you about at a lower rate than almost all their competitors and on par with Uber Black. It's amazing. There's a conservative company. Plus, they run a 24/7 in-house operation armed with state-of-the-art technology. So whether it's the dead of night or crack of dawn, you can pick up the phone and have a direct line to your driver. Book a Limo is a full-service experience, from professional chauffeurs to personalized meet and greet services. They have it all. Give them a call at 1-800-BOOK-A-LIMO. That's 1-800-BOOK-A-LIMO, or book online at www.bookalimo.com. That's bookalimo.com. Trust me, they are your go-to for a safe, luxurious ride that you absolutely, positively deserve. Yeah, so folks, you've seen the headlines. Have you? We talked about the headline of the Hill, right? On here, how, I mean, look, it's just some whack job leftists in the Hill, but still, they are encouraging Democrat members of Congress to do everything they can to use the 14th Amendment, making a constitutional argument about why they can stop President Trump from being sworn in. And you can bet that their allies in the intelligence community are helping them every step of the way, because they don't want Trump being sworn in either. And so while all of this is going on, I really feel like I want to emphasize this. I don't want the Republicans fighting. Folks, listen, we have the wind at our back right now. Seriously, the Democrats are in disarray. They don't know what the hell hit them in 2024. I mean, I've seen clips of Kamala Harris's people, of them saying, well, Kamala, she ain't going anywhere. You're going to see her very soon. Good. Run her again in 28. Please, Democrats, run that moron Kamala Harris at the top of the ticket again. Somehow you found somebody that was less articulate than Joe Biden. He's barely alive right now. They've learned nothing. Biden thinks that he regrets withdrawing. He thinks that he could have beaten Trump. Biden thinks that he didn't move faster with lawfare. I mean, listen to this stuff that this Rick Wilson, who's this gross dude who runs the Lincoln Project, listen to what he's saying yesterday about Trump supporters. Folks, these people have learned no lessons. And while politically that's good for us, it's bad for us because they're going to keep pushing the authoritarian fascist nonsense unless somebody holds these people accountable, right? So in order for that to happen, we got to have Trump in office. Okay, but listen to Rick Wilson.
It's an inevitability that the hyper-populist, non-college educated part of Trump's base, which is the plurality at the minimum, a majority if you take certain arguments, we're always going to be preconditioned to believe that the word immigration or the word visa always in their minds means brown people bad. And so they have this belief that the guy with the GED and his fake Oakley sunglasses, his goatee and his pickup truck, the universal Twitter bro that you see in every avatar on Twitter, that guy's thinking to himself, oh, well, I could have been the senior software designer at Google if only it weren't for DEI or immigration. It's absurd, but now you see these people that rely on that as a core part of their business, just like Donald Trump does also, by the way, for service staff at Mar-a-Lago and other resorts. You see this conflict. It's going to eventually, the hyper-populists, they don't really care about the more sophisticated arguments about H-1B or O-1 visas. They care around people bad. That's their whole driving conditioning they've had from Fox for years.
Oh, yeah. Going with the age-old Trump is a racist argument, right? These people, they don't get it. Not to mention that Trump made historic gains in just about every single category. And that moron that I just showed you was the day before Election Day said Trump was going to lose in embarrassing fashion. But it's not just him. Listen to Jennifer Rubin, who I don't know if she still is, but I think might still be a columnist at the Washington Compost.
Okay. Why would ABC, Disney, the mouse, who has more money than God, settle with Donald Trump?
I honestly don't know.
You know, I've asked, why would ABC? But people ask me all the time, why is the media so mamsy-pamsy? And there are two explanations. One is they are convinced that if they would just move a little bit to the right, all those MAGA readers out there, now you'll notice the contradiction in terms, MAGA readers, would pick up the Washington Post.
Oh, ha, 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 ha. MAGA readers are dumb. They can't read. These people are idiots. To fight over a speaker fight, especially when President Trump has weighed in and given his blessing to Speaker Mike Johnson, and squander this extraordinary momentum that we have would be to give our political enemies a massive, massive victory. So I'm going to tell you quickly about the intelligence community, and then I want to tell you also about some Kash Patel stuff. But I got to show you this commercial about Good Ranchers. I love them. They're a sponsor of the show. We're grateful to have them. Check out Good Ranchers.
What makes America great? We believe it's the fact that anyone can dream and work to make that dream come true. Good Ranchers started with the dream that American meals should come from American farms. We believe you should know the source and trust the source. With the overwhelming majority of grass-fed beef sold in the U.S. being imported from overseas, American farmers are hurting, and ranches that have been here for generations are closing for good. That's why we decided to travel the country, connect with local farms and ranches, and sit down with real Americans to find out what they needed and how we could best serve them. We then took everything we learned and we put it into our boxes. When you open a Good Ranchers box, it's not just full of 100% American meat that is steakhouse quality. It's full of a supply chain that supports American-made only. It's full of a commitment to help American farms and American families thrive. Where do you come in? You already have. You're the first domino that starts the chain. Your order enters the system, supports the farms, cuts the meat, seals the package, packs the box, loads the truck, unloads it to your door, and feeds your family. You are the fuel for Good Ranchers. You're helping keep farms open across the country and donating countless meals to those in need with your purchase. We're not here to stand in the spotlight. Our story is best when it's part of yours. We want to put the focus on those who need it and deserve it. On the farms and ranches that are continuing generations of tradition and quality. On the Americans who need a good meal and are not sure where it'll come from. On the people who want to do good and eat good. On you. This is our way of asking if we can join you for dinner. Can we have a place in the center of each plate? We'll bring the meat. You make the memories.
So if food you can trust this season matters to you, then put the car keys down. Don't go to the grocery store. Go to goodranchers.com. Use the promo code VNN for meat you can trust today. A free cut of your choice for a year, $25 off. That is goodranchers.com. American meat delivered. Folks, listen to me. We have a lot of extraordinary things going for us. The intel community, yeah, they're going to be working to try to undermine Trump. But they also recognize that they are on the ropes in a very big way. I mean, seriously, listen to John Brennan, who, by the way, is a commie mouth breather who was 100% behind spying on President Trump, 100% behind the Russia collusion hoax, signed the laptop from hell, the Hunter Biden laptop letter. This guy is a hardcore Democrat hack. And just listen to this.
John Brennan, who in 2020 called President Trump a, quote, despicable, ignorant fool, has a surprising take on the transition so far. Listen here.
I think this transition to the...
There he was. Now
is taking place in a more serious and professional fashion than happened in 2016, 2017. Because you have people like a Marco Rubio, who has been named to be the next Secretary of State, who is well steeped in these issues and also takes them very seriously. And I know that there is engagement between the Biden Department of State and the incoming Trump team.
So that snafu was not me. That was on Fox. But that was that. Look, this guy is only saying this because he knows that Trump does like when people give him kudos, and he's hoping that he won't be held accountable when Trump takes office and Kash Patel steps in as the FBI director. There's no doubt about it. And look, you want to talk about the Biden crime family? They were totally exposed. Remember the New York Post headline? The feds finally released photos showing then VP Biden meeting son's Hunter Biden China business partners days before he leaves office. So this is, first of all, thanks feds for putting all this stuff out now as the animated corpse is on his way out of the White House. But this confirms everything that we already knew, and we've been reporting on this for the better part of a year, that Biden is a wholly owned subsidiary of the CCP. People came after me for saying that, but it's 100% true. There are pictures of him now out there as a sitting vice president meeting with President Xi of China and Hunter Biden, who, by the way, Hunter Biden was paid in bags full of diamonds from China like he's some sort of Bond villain. But the narrative around the Biden crime family is also collapsing.
Biden on Ukraine and also China. There's polling by the Associated Press that shows that almost 70% of Americans, including 40% of Democrats, believe that you acted either illegally or unethically in regards to your family's business interests. Can you explain to the Americans, amid this impeachment inquiry, why you interacted with so many of your son and brother's foreign business associates?
I'm not going to comment on that. I did not. And it's just a bunch of lies.
You didn't interact with many of their business associates?
I did not. There's lies.
If he just grumbles lies enough, the world will believe him and the media won't ask any more questions, just like they didn't ask any damn questions about his age. Oh my gosh. Listen, good is winning. Good is winning, but